Welcome to Tech Talk Weekly. I'm Bob from Creation Station. This is our weekly show where we give you 3 or 4 interesting tech topics in about 20 minutes, get you on your way with some fun library facts. As always, if there's anything you'd like us to cover on the show, Creation Station at broward.org comes right to me. Today, I have managed to wrangle out Edison. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you.
So Edison works for, officially it's building services as the group. Do you have a different section that you work though for?
Yeah, delivery services are responsible for getting material to all 36 branches. Yeah,
All those books that everybody's carrying around, bringing back at any building, check out, do all that stuff.
yeah.
Edison's the guy who makes sure all that happens. It gets it back to the correct buildings, delivers tons of stuff for us. I have seen you
Well, I
stand
have
up
a team, so I
tens.
wouldn't say I'm the guy.
You're the person who helps organize all of this. I've seen you out there with tents. I've seen you help do everything.
Yeah,
You guys do. You're another one of those people that nobody out there knows, but makes the library system actually work. Because we
yeah.
couldn't get it done without you guys. It's just not possible. But
Mm.
we have got some quick hitting fun stories here to get started with. Number one is Artemis. And this story is not from the storm. I'll cover that in just a second.
So
But
Artemis, we're talking about the goddess of the hunt, or we're
yeah,
talking about
exactly.
NASA's
No,
Artemis.
I think you're right on that one. It seems something seems to be hunting this mission down. 2 hurricanes now have come
Mhm.
and tried to stop this launch. And I saw there's a really great video out there because we do not know as of the time we're recording this. We're one day after the second hurricane, so we do not know whether this is going to be how the rocket was affected. But there's a really nice example. If anyone tries to tell you, well, just a little wind can't hurt it. A beautiful thing is go get a soda can and step on the top of it. It's perfectly fine. As soon as you press it in from the side, the thing just crumbles. And the wind was coming from the side on this rocket during a hurricane. So we're going to see what happens with it. It had over 100-mile-an-hour winds hitting the actual ship. So it's going to take them a few days to figure it out. Don't think it's going to launch on the 16th, but we'll find out.
Wow.
Once it actually launches, yeah. Have you been following that one, Edison?
A little bit,
Yeah.
not that much.
I know we're all in everybody like kind of just is rockets are in the back of our mind for everybody who lives in Florida sometimes. The news story that I found earlier this week, though, before we even knew the storm was coming, there's 2 amateurs. They've got 18 groups that are going to be tracking this mission because remember it's a 3-week mission that goes out, and they're going to be tracking it by radio telescopes and visual telescopes and everything. The fun one was there's 2 people on amateur radio that are going to be doing this. Did you do any radio work? Because you were in the military, Edison. Did you do any radio work when you were there?
Yeah, extensively when I was with the CBs
Okay.
in Gulfport, Mississippi. The CBs are a combat battalion
Yep.
made famous by John Wayne in that movie, The CBs. Yeah, they're a construction battalion. They belong to the Navy. They go in clear spaces and they train almost like Marines, and a big part of it is radio communication when they're on the
Yep.
ground. So yeah,
I was at
extensive.
Third Mardiv
Yeah.
in Okinawa doing exactly that. Yep.
Yep, yep, yep. And
Yep.
I plus I used to love ham radios when I was younger. I had a truck CB and I ran an antenna out of my bedroom and I used to get on and listen
Oh,
to
that is
stuff.
awesome.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is really great. See, now you could be getting in on this. You still got that sitting around in a closet somewhere. You could
Oh
be
man.
getting in on this and following along.
I don't know. At first I thought it was an antiquated technology. No one is
It
really
is.
interested in it anymore. I guess they don't even use Morse code anymore, huh?
They don't on these, but there's a lot of data transmission, and that's why. Because everything as they moved them to digital transmissions, they haven't been using Morse code on it, but they do a tremendous amount of data that is almost like Morse code. It's very similar to how the old-fashioned modems worked when you get that weird thing noise as that goes through. that's how these guys are going to be connecting in to actually listen in and sync to those radio signals. And once you can get into that right wavelength, now you'll be able to watch it. So we're hopeful they'll be able to launch next week. And then it's going to be interesting to watch these now. And there's websites you can go out there and follow along with the radio communications other than the NASA one. You can see what individual people are doing. So I was like, huh, that's a fun little story. I was like, this is a nice, good one for us.
Sure.
Then our next story today is the new Turing test is, are you human? So the official, the recognized, the Turing test is something to test computers to see if they can fool a human into thinking that they are also human. And if it could pass that test, then how could you tell the difference between the computer and the human?
Wow.
But
Well, can the computer show love, mercy, or
exactly, there you go.
yeah,
See,
yeah.
you've got it.
Mhm.
And so now there's some discussion. This article and talks, as always, all the links will be in the show notes for you, so you can go see, go follow up on all of these. Remember last summer there was this big mess of somebody saying that Google was sentient, that it had just, and everybody was like, no, it's designed to be able to give you responses back like that. And it brought up some new things, and some people out there, some philosophers and computer science people have been talking about this, that maybe it's because humans are doing so much computer work now that they're not seeing themselves as different than the computers who are doing all of the extra calculations for
Hmm.
them.
Interesting.
And what how do you feel about telling the difference in between what is a tool that you're using and what is like a partner that you're working with? Because that's what this really comes down to, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, like for instance, one of my favorite authors is William Cooper. I can't remember the name of the book. I think it's Behold a Pale White Horse or something like that. Or
Yep, yep.
Behold, and in Williams Cooper's book, he basically to summarize it, he was saying that they put what's really happening in movies and to desensitize you from what's going on. So let's say for instance a movie like Total Recall is really real, and that technology is our technology is advancing like what you see in that movie. That's very scary. You can't tell the difference between a humanoid and
Yeah. Yeah.
uh
A full Android versus
robot.
a human. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. And that's actually one of the things that they bring up here towards in this article, something called interview warm up,
Hmm.
which is Google designed it to help people practice, get used to talking to people, get used to answering questions. Have somebody throws you a question and you have to come up with an answer on the fly to be able to do it. And that's almost what you're talking about. It's like, well, wait a minute. Now we're turning it around and it's now the computers interviewing the humans
Wow.
live conversationally. And right now it's intended to be a practice tool for being able to go back and forth and do. But as language learning gets, deep learning and language assessment stuff gets better, it's going to be interesting to see just how close we get to that. Yeah,
Wow. So should our governments be putting some sort of policy or restrictions in place?
exactly. That's the idea. Who is the one who can make those decisions? And do we want to leave it up to individual corporations? You can look at all the mess in the tech world these last couple of weeks of
Hmm.
things disintegrating around us, it seems. Or are you going to have some kind of government agency that's going to be there, that's going to at least have some reins on this thing, some guardrails to say, okay, well, this is what you're allowed to do. This is where you can do. This is how you have to clearly mark this is a human versus this is a artificial language created bot or something like that. That is a really nice point.
I just hope they don't depend on the industry that make the technology to be the ones that make the decisions and set up the policies. We've seen how
Yeah.
that went in the past.
Uh-huh. Exactly. I've been following this whole mess in Bitcoin that if the financial industry is no better than the rest of the government for keeping track of things. And keeping track of things, you may have thought you owned color. I'm sorry, that nobody owned color, but it turns out we're wrong.
Yeah.
So technically it doesn't, nobody owns color. You still get to use color. You still get to do these things. However, Pantone, who is the master arbiter effectively because of what you just said, they're just a company that developed and grew and decided that this is how the world should organize colors. And everybody agreed, and it worked really well. And now they're saying, by the way, if you use our stuff in Adobe, we're going to charge you a fee to use it in Adobe.
Wow.
And yeah. So
Capitalism at its best.
if you did, oh, yeah. So if you did something in Photoshop 20 years ago and used one of these Pantone colors, it's going to be replaced with black.
Yeah. It was
Unless you pay
interesting.
them
Yeah.
21 bucks a month to have access to it.
Yeah, this is really interesting because before, you I got this you sent me this topic and I was like, let me do some research on it. And
Yeah.
I didn't know a handful of companies own the boundary own color by
Yeah.
pushing the intellectual property law, laying claim to individual colors.
Mhm.
And I was very surprised. And I heard it kind of started around insulation by Corning.
Yep.
They wanted the rights to the pink insulation, so they filed something of that nature, I guess, some
Yeah,
sort
they've
of
got
trademark.
a trademark on that particular shade of pink for insulation.
Yeah.
If you're a competing company, you can't use that particular color. And I got up on the screen here, you can see all the Pantone 304C, 305C, 306, 307, 308, 309. So, you can see there's this slow graduation. I'm colorblind, but even I can see there's a slight graduation there between all the things. And also to be clear, this is not that you can't use that blue, whichever of these blues. You can go out there and use that blue.
Hmm.
But if you're going to call it Pantone 306C, then you owe Pantone 25 bucks, $21, whatever it is a month to be able to use that. And the reason it's important, and I know people are like, so just don't pay them the money. Here's the problem. If you say, I want this color blue, and say you're a small company and you want all of your logos, everything to look the same, you need this descriptor of the color so that you can then say, okay, this color on the website, on the travel mug, on the paper brochure, on all of the different things. So it's the same color everywhere and it doesn't change, where it's a slightly faded out blue when it's on the screen. And when it's on paper, it's a bright blue. And then when you put it onto your coffee mug as a promotional piece, it gets a little shiny. How Pantone solved all that was giving these colors, and everybody knows exactly how this color is going to look on every possible surface. And so now they're going to start charging people for that.
I could see why a company would want to protect a color that was synonymous with their brand,
Mm-hmm.
but man, paying a monthly fee to use a color is kind of ridiculous.
It just sounds wrong.
Yeah, it just sounds wrong. Just sounds like somebody's trying to get rich.
Uh, I think they've already got rich is the problem. Maybe that's the issue. Um, but so this is something that's been going on for 20 years. They've already been doing all this, and there's a lot of updating and gnashing of teeth about this. So we're going to see there's going to be some kind of fee, whether it ends up that Adobe pays part of the fee and passes on the fee to bigger companies or however they do that. But everything is it. By the way, if you didn't want to run this, I am not telling anybody to break any kind of software things, but if you can find an older version of the Adobe software, then don't update it and you'll be fine. because this only happens in the new versions of Adobe. So
So there we go
that's only going to
again.
be
The
that's only a
old, the
stopgap
old
thing.
stuff,
Yeah.
the older stuff, is saving the day again. You don't have to pay
Yeah.
for it. Yep.
Yep. Of course, it's going to break because it's going to. It
Yeah.
can't last forever. But in the meantime, as I'm trying to get this all sorted out, just don't update your Adobe if you haven't already, because there's got to be something prior to, earlier in the summer of 2022.
And you probably shouldn't expect any software support.
There's no software support. There's no, and which is why you need
Uh,
it. You have to, if you're going to be doing this stuff, you're going to have to keep upgrading, and eventually you're going to lose access. So
so who would
just
think that
be careful.
some insulation would cause this problem?
Yeah.
Owens Corning wanting to
Yep.
patent trademark the pink insulation would cause this problem. Wow.
Uh-huh. Because people have to make money. I get that, but certain things I think you should be able to, like, here's a standard. Boom. Can you imagine libraries? If we all of a sudden started charging to use the Dewey Decimal System?
Oh wow.
I mean, that's effectively what this is. I mean, this is, you know, just crazy, crazy, craziness. Planning.
I think it might drive readership down if they had to pay to use it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that one. And our final story for the day, which is odd and another capitalism one. I think you've hit us on the head with this one today. So Corpus Christi, town on the Texas coast, basically sold all of their water to companies because industry needs a lot of water. If you're into Exxon, for example, who does a lot of oil drilling in the area, they need fresh water to help run all their machinery and everything. And so they bought the allotment out of Corpus Christi, and the city of Corpus Christi sold again another large allotment of water to another company, Steel Dynamics, so they could build a factory there to do steel. And the city back in 2017, 18, and 2019, when they were making these deals, said it's not going to be a big deal because we're going to make a desalination plant. We're going to suck the water out of the ocean, desalinate it, use it to do these projects, and then it'll solve it all. Take a guess if any of those plants actually got built.
I'm thinking it didn't.
Yeah.
I'm thinking they're gonna run into issues with water just like they're doing right now with Lake Michigan and Flint and
Uh-huh.
Arizona. Yeah.
And the Colorado River, et cetera,
Mhm.
et cetera, et cetera.
Bob, who make these decisions? Did we put them in office?
Yeah, somebody put
Did
these
the
people in
people of
office.
Texas put them in office?
Exactly.
They make
People
these
in
decisions?
Texas elected these people to running the city, and the city decided they were going to do this as a deal to attract the big business, to bring in these big corporations to do more business in the city, and sold them the water rights without thinking ahead, or at least not coming through with their plans if they did plan ahead in the case of a couple of these.
Not
And
to get too
now,
heavy, but I
yeah,
mean, did they not think about the well-being of their citizens?
exactly. No, that's
Getting rid of the
exactly the point.
water?
That's, yeah, no, 100%. What are you thinking about here? And they, the way they set these up, and I've got a map up on the screen for you to see,
All right, let's see.
is you can see that it's all here in the bay, is where they want to build all of these desalination plants instead of dragging the water from the open ocean where the currents will keep it refreshed and moving around. They want to draw the water from inside the bay where it's calmer, quieter, and pump all the salt water back in the heavy brine that comes out back into the bay, which makes the bay even saltier and worse off and will kill the fish, etc., etc., etc. People, come on.
On top of
And if you,
that, Bob, they probably have
yeah,
a whole lot of runoff from fertilizers and
uh-huh. Yep,
harsh chemicals
yep,
and stuff in
exactly.
the
And
bay
right, what
versus the
we know
wide
here in
open
Florida.
ocean.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly what we know in Florida with the red tides that we had up, last summer. And one of the frustrating things to me about this, and what really made me like, okay, I want to talk about this, is these companies could build desalination plants themselves, and or all they have to do is build a pipe that goes out into the ocean to suck the water from out in the ocean and return it back to the ocean. It's just a mile long pipe that goes out into the ocean and brings it back. It's less than the width. The whole bay going across is over 5 miles. They could have just built one pipe per plant to go out into the ocean. And they're saying that, oh, well, no, it's too expensive. And that wasn't in our original deal.
I don't think they're thinking about the citizens of Texas. They're
No, there's
thinking
not going
about
to be
their
anybody living
shareholders.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
their
How
shareholders.
are you going to live in a place without water? This is the whole how we survive. What are we going to do going forward? It can't be business as usual. It can't be the corporations letting the things. So this is a really interesting tech story because they kind of planned ahead and build these new desalination plants, but then didn't follow through with regulation to force it to be built on time. Now the EPA is involved because water shortages and the way they want to build the plants now to save money means that you're going to mess up the bay and et cetera. It's just like,
Not to get too heavy politically, do we still have an EPA? I thought that
yeah, we
was
do. No, we do.
dismantled by the previous administration.
Well, there's some disagreements on that one, on
Uh,
both sides of the aisle about how agencies should be regulating people, and there's some good and bad on both sides. But yeah, you're right. If you've got an agency to do this and regulate this, then let them do their job and work with them and make a long-term plan because it's not like you didn't need to in 2019, you needed water in 2020. You knew you needed water
um,
in 2024.
and
It's not like
global
water's going to go
warming.
away. When do we not need water? Right?
And you know, there's global warming. Water is like drying up.
I know.
Uh,
I know. I know.
some rivers in the lowest they've ever been.
Oh,
Some
yeah.
bodies of water the lowest they've ever been in the history,
It's
time. So
crazy, isn't it? It's just
yeah.
crazy, 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 crazy. Man, see, we could have done one story all show long. These
What?
things just go. We're running out of time though. Thank you so much for being here, Edison, for that.
No
And
problem.
again, as we talked about last week, this is Veterans Month around here in the library because this is not a single day.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is the official Veterans holiday, so I hope everybody's off, everybody enjoys, gets a chance to think about the whole reason why, because this is not just a new modern little holiday.
I'd like to thank everybody for their service.
1918. Yeah,
Yep. Hmm.
1918, folks, is when this started. This is not a new modern thing. So pay attention. Poppy Day was up in Canada also just the other day. So thank you everybody up there also. Um, Again, thank you for taking the time out. You've got a really busy schedule, Edison. So thank you for popping in here to do this with us.
No problem. Anything
Um,
for the public library has been a staple in my life growing up.
it
One of the
is.
best refuge where you could
Yeah.
go learn anything you wanted to learn. Yep.
See, folks, all of us at the library use the library too.
Yep.
You should follow. Let's throw up this final slide here. If you have a library or a librarian, somebody who works in the libraries who you want to see featured on the show, let us know. CreationStation@broward.org. We'll see everybody next week.
Bye.